Hi, I'm Brian Rossi with ROSSI Commercial Real Estate. Thanks for watching my video. I'm going to give you the 1, 2, 3s and ABCs of commercial real estate. To end this summer, as we go into September, kids are back in school. Your office lease is going to be renewed, or you need expansions, whatever the case may be. Here's some tips that are going to save you money on your next office lease or office lease renewal. Number 1, start early. I know it's summer, but if your lease is up at the end of this year, you should have already begun. And if you haven't, you need to start right away. It can take months and months and months to craft the negotiation to get a good deal and not leave a lot of money on the table. I am doing this since 1997, and the one thing that's happened over all the years is it takes longer and longer and longer to complete a good lease negotiation. When I say good, I mean one that's beneficial to the tenant. Okay, so certainly landlords love it when people come rushed and they don't have to really bend over backwards to get you in because you're in a jam. Or those that leave the lease renewal to the last minute and wonder why they can't negotiate good terms when the rest of the market's got a lot of vacancy, and if there was just simply more time, they should be able to negotiate a great deal. Right, so that's number 1. Okay, now cost savings tip number 2, operating expenses. Now, in office buildings, you usually have a full service lease, and the operating expenses, including real estate taxes and insurance, are part of what you pay. If you're paying $25 per square foot and it's costing $10 per square foot to operate the building, well, it's like having a $15 per square foot rent plus the $10 that it costs to operate the building, but it's tacked into a full service rate. Now, this is an important area to look at in terms of cost savings, because every lease has a provision that, in addition to maybe a 3% escalation in the base rent, which is actually the $25, right? That in addition to that, as operating expenses increase, or real estate taxes or insurance go up, that you pay for the difference over the base year. The base year is the first year you lease the space. You also got to make sure that that's what the lease says, because it's more important what the lease says than the fact that you happen to lease the space in 2016 or 2017, or if you're doing a lease renewal, this is where people can overlook and make a big mistake. If you leased the building in 2012 and the operating expenses were low, and you've paid for increases over the base year, after 5 years in 2017, you're looking at renewing for another 5 years. If you forget to negotiate to reset the base year to 2017, and you're still operating off a 2012 base year, when you sign that lease amendment, you're going to have a very happy landlord. And if they're at all prudent about their lease negotiations, they probably won't go out of their way to remind you that they'd like to reset your base year, because that's purely a benefit to you as a tenant. It would be a rare situation where resetting a base year after, say, 5 years, that's actually a better, not resetting would be a better economic impact on your company. It'd be incredibly rare. The flip side of the normal over time costs go up kind of a concept. So that would be tip number 2, look at the operating expenses. And I'll actually add, before going on to 3, that in comparing building to building, you want to look at what are the exclusions to operating expenses. Certainly things like capital expenditures to improve buildings. Many of those things should not be added into the operating expenses that tenants pay, while other things it would be reasonable to. You really need to be talking with someone, an attorney who's a commercial real estate attorney, not a traffic attorney, or whatever you call it, not a divorce attorney or family attorney. A commercial real estate attorney should have the experience, and a broker, to know what should come out of operating expenses that a landlord may want to put in there. Management fees and other things like that. What's the reasonable percentages? Those things can be a profit center for landlords, unbeknownst to the tenant who didn't know to negotiate those things. So that's cost savings tip number 2, operating expenses. Tip number 3, learn what core factor is. It has a direct impact on what it costs you to occupy your space. So I'll sum it up really quickly. Core factor is the common area of a building. It's the hallways, the elevators, the lobby. They're not all the same. And we're engaged in a lease right now in our company for a client where the buildings are actually very comparable. This is in Rockville. One building had a 12% core factor, which is on the low side, and the other one had a 22% core factor. You would not know this by looking at it. It's not on any of the literature. It's not on their marketing flyer. And it's not even in CoStar, which is the service you have to subscribe to as a commercial real estate firm. You don't have to, but if you are anybody, you're going to do that. This is like the listing service for commercial real estate people in our area. And a lot of the data on the buildings are there. Typically, core factor is one that's left out. And so you literally have to ask for the details, maybe even have it verified by an architect if you're really taking into account a significant amount of space, any amount of space. No one wants to give away money, right? So you want to verify what the core factor is. That's done and measured accurately according to BOMA standards or GWICAR, the kind of two recognized methods in our area. And also, you want to compare, buildings and see apples to apples, and not apples and oranges. And that's what they are. They're apples and oranges. Even if they look like two similar office buildings, the core factors could be completely different. So if you have 1,000 square feet of space and 22% of it was actually outside the space, you're going to have a smaller space than if only 12% of it is outside the space in hallways and so forth. So now if you're leasing 10,000 square feet or 20 or 30,000 square feet, you can see that this really adds up. You're paying for a lot of space you're not even using. And sometimes it's not so obvious that, well, this building's got a really big lobby and it's got 3 elevators. The other building's got 2 elevators and a small lobby. Naturally, that one should have a smaller core factor. It doesn't work like that, surprisingly enough. There are certain owners of buildings that they just eat the cost and keep the core factor low even when it's not. That's to the tenant's advantage. So, and then there's other buildings that, for whatever reason, they just have every floor is multi-tenanted, there's hallways everywhere, there's not a very efficient design of the core of the building. And even though you don't see it as common area, the next thing you know, you got some ridiculous core factor and you realize, why does my space seem so small? I thought at least 5,000 square feet. It doesn't seem as big as other, So, don't make the mistake of just giving away money because your broker or you didn't look into what the core factor differences are between buildings. Right? There's that cost saving tip number 3. Okay, now that I've covered the 1, 2, 3s, and I'm moving on to the ABCs of cost-saving tips for your office lease, let me finish the 1, 2, 3s by saying that there are a number of other cost-saving tips. There's so many, it would be a way too long of a video. There'd have to be a course in it. I started in 1997, so it's been a long time I've been negotiating leases for office buildings. And there's a lot of different ways that need to be looked at very carefully by an expert, so your company doesn't get committed to a contract for space only to realize there's a big oversight and it's going to cost a lot of money. The market has been the way it is, which is purely one that favors the tenants and getting good deals. There's certainly ways for them to make a better deal, negotiate, and that's all part of the being an expert in the industry and knowing how to work with the lease language and negotiate terms and such to get the right outcome for the client. And we work very hard to negotiate the best deal possible for the tenants we represent. So that being said, let's move on to ABCs. So now let's talk about ABCs of saving money on your next office lease or renewal. And the A stands for architect. Okay, so I see this mistake a lot. This is one that, whether it's on purpose or not, hard to say, but it's not uncommon to find a situation where a tenant is in a space that the lease says what the square footage is, but that's not really what it is. It's less. It's not often you find it going the other direction, funny enough. So I'd say as a tip to office tenants, make sure that you ask that the space, or even independently verify with an architect, the square footage of the space, that the core factor or common area factor is calculated correctly according to GWICAR or BOMA standards for measuring office space. I would say this applies to any kind of space. For that matter, you'd want to make sure you're paying for what you get. And so architects can verify whether or not the landlord's giving you the right number or not. And that's tip A. Okay, on to cost-saving tip letter B. And the B stands for broker. That's what I am. And this is very important. Your best friend to getting you a good deal is your real estate broker. And I know that many people might look at this and say, well, you get a commission and you're a salesperson. I don't always trust salespeople. And I would have to say, well, that comes with vetting out good people. It comes out, it is on tenants to hire someone who's actually done deals in the area. I've seen so many mistakes with tenants. It's not my place to point out, and I never say it to anyone, but I've seen people hire brokers that don't have a clue what they're doing. And I've seen people hire someone that they know from the neighborhood or a relative that does residential real estate and doesn't have a clue what they're doing in commercial real estate. And the biggest mistake about a broker a company can make is to think that their value lies in finding the space. Like any moron can get on a computer and look and find what's available for space, especially if you subscribe to the service that provides the listing information. But the real value in a broker is their experience and their knowledge and how to get you the best cost savings terms, especially the hidden ones. The hidden costs can kill a company. But certainly the second highest expense most office companies has is the office space. Only first, the reason why they have office space is because of the employees. And employees are typically the first cost, the highest cost. But second being the office space. Now you need to save money on that and not find that there's surprises that eat big time into your budget and hurt your bottom line. Not negotiating a good office deal because you chose the wrong broker is the difference of some companies being profitable and losing money. Could be the difference between getting such a bad deal that it impacts your business so negatively that you go out of business. It's very important to hire a broker that you've asked how many deals you've done, where are they, who have you represented, what buildings do you represent now. You want to vet out any conflicts of interest if there are any, and understand who's this guy working for. You working for me? Right? The other mistake in terms of brokers is not hiring them. Brokers, many in the industry, are willing to go out with a tenant and show them space, but the tenants are, I don't know if I want to sign anything with them. Well, you don't want to sign anything with anybody until you've vetted them out properly with good references, and their experience level, and they're credible, and they're going to get you a good deal because they have the experience doing so. That's number one. Number two, then you want to hire them. You want to make sure that they've signed a commitment to representing you and not treat you like just a customer, but you're an actual client. And they have a fiduciary responsibility to representing your interest, not their own or some landlord's interest. So that's the letter B, broker. Very important to have one, and very important to have the right one. All right, now we've covered item B. Now it's on to letter C. Contracts. Of course, what is the lease but a contract? And it's a long-standing contract. Many contracts are 5 to 10 years. With smaller spaces or temporary situations, you get as little as a very short lease, or like perhaps a year. But nevertheless, it's a contract. I think it's important to have a contract reviewed by a commercial real estate attorney. I guess I could have used, I chose architect for A, I could have used attorney, but it's not going to be in your best interest to replace the broker with an attorney. And it's not in your best interest to think that because I have a broker, now I don't need an attorney. Right? These are two separate things. A good commercial real estate attorney is not going to pretend they know the market like a broker. And they're not going to tell you to change the terms and mix up and feel like it's their job to rack up the billable hours while they completely renegotiate a deal and usually have it blow up, which is good news for them because they get to now do it again on another space and rack up the billable hours again. Just as hiring a good broker is important and to your bottom line and your success, hiring a good attorney and the right attorney is important. Look, attorneys cost range quite a bit. So you could get the very expensive attorney and you can get inexpensive attorneys. I've seen incredibly good commercial real estate attorneys on the low end of the attorney cost scale and certainly on the high end. So it's most important though to get a commercial real estate attorney who knows the important areas in a commercial real estate lease to protect your business interests. And that's all I have to say about that. That's the final tip. There's so many more I could cover. And if you're interested in any questions about commercial real estate, by all means, contact me. You can visit us at www.rossicre.com, or you can reach out to me directly. I'm Brian Rossi, and I look forward to speaking with you sometime soon about your office lease or upcoming lease renewal. Have a great week.